Hello, my name is Don Francisco, and welcome to Sabado Gigante. Actually, this is Grottu Orloff. Yesterday evening, my wife told me, now that I've shaved off this shit, that I look like Don. I keep wanting to say Don Cornelius, but no, it didn't make me look like Don Cornelius. Don Francisco, if you ever tune in Spanish language television, he's retired now, but for decades on Saturday there was an Ed Sullivan kind of show on Spanish language television that's, I think it went for 6-7 hours. It lasted all Saturday practically. Therefore it was called Gigantic Saturday. Now apparently I look like him because I'm become gigantically fat through inactivity in the during the pandemic craze. So I got to lose weight. Just weighed myself, and clothed, I weigh 258, which is more than I've ever weighed in my life. It's horrific, and I must lose weight. I should have known when my belt broke. The belt that I always wear just snapped finally. So I guess that's why they call it a Dairy Queen, the Belt Buster. That's why apparently. So I guess I need to go get another belt, I guess, at Nordstrom Rack, is what my wife says. Or maybe I'll just get a rope like Little Abner, or like on the Wolfman Aurora model kit, just have a rope tied to keep my pants up, so I don't have. Because I was out just walking Drew, our beagle, and I felt like I was pulling my pants up all the time like a gang member. But anyway, um, the people that make these are becoming billionaires. Also, you think about those plexiglass shields that shield you from the tellers at the stores you go into. Whoever makes those, they're just suddenly millionaires. It's just like this is the greatest thing that ever happened to them. And the this pandemic happened, and I was just about to retire, and I never got to go back. The last several months of work, and then retirement happened, and I wished goodbye in a Zoom meeting. And now, I've just too much inactivity. I got to get off my posterior more, and I'm trying to organize these comics, and it's just frustrating. And then I'll figure I'm gonna go do something important now, and then the dog will fall asleep in my lap, and then it's just like I can't get up now. I guess I'll just watch YouTube and everything. And so, I see people on YouTube wondering, and they're crying out for help, and it's almost like they're wanting Grottu, the great Grottu, to answer their prayers and do a special episode about how do you know when a comic is worth sending off to be slabbed by the CGC. How do you know, is this comic worth it? If a comic's worth a few bucks, is it worth enclosing it in plastic forever, sealed forever, never to be read again, never to flip through, because you want to keep it perfect, and you want the little writing at the top from some expert grader that tells you that you got a 9.6, man, or this is a 9.8. I guess they don't have 10s, because I hear these idiots, I'm sorry, wonderful comic collectors, they always say 9.8. That seems to be the best thing you can have. So I guess there's no perfection. So I've never heard anyone talking about, oh, look, I got a 10.0 from the CGC. But I will help you decide what comics. I'm going to train you this evening on what comics are worth. And I'm going to grow that fucking beard back, because the beard hides these fucking Godfather Richard Nixon folds of fat. And when you have that, people can't see it. And I don't know what I'm trying to do here. I guess I'm trying to be Isaac Asimov or some kind of fucking thing. But I'll grow it back. And, okay, so, first of all, if you want to send a comic off to be slabbed, it needs to have some value. If a comic's worth a couple of bucks, then I wouldn't send it off. But if it's worth maybe 20, and then you're going to pay about 20 to have it graded and enclosed in the plastic, and then it immediately shoots up in value once you've enclosed it in plastic, and then it will keep that value, and it'll always be worth more than a comic that is unslabbed. So when you've got an important key issue, if you look at the Key Collector app on your phone, you'll see that this issue is extremely rare, and you can see the corners. You've got to look at the corners first. See, the corners are undinged, and then you look for spine ticks, you know, and it's like, well, I see a little bit of stress like a couple of places, but it's not too bad. And that's, yeah, it's actually, I would say this is probably an 8.0. And because it is a key issue, it's a key issue because it has this special section in the middle, this color glossy section. This was not everybody that bought this comic got the color glossy section. Only people that bought this at army bases got the color glossy section. It's from a jeweler company. And the important thing here is this time travel story that sets up some important characters. It's the first appearance of this character here, Krang the Conqueror. Now he would later go on to be an important character in the Avengers. See, this is put up by Marvel Comics group, and he would later fight the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, and people are almost 78% sure that he's going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they've already hired an actor to play him. He's going to be played by, can't remember his name. Is Wesley Snipes' son is going to play that character. So he's been cast, and they're thinking he's going to appear probably in the new Doctor Strange movie. So this comic's going to shoot up in value. It's really sought after, or soon will be. So you got to get this slabbed. I would get that slabbed immediately. Now, what else? Now, this comic here, you see, you look at it, see the edges are pretty nice. Yeah, yeah, a little bit of color break there, and then there's a color break here too. Not too bad. I would say this is near mint. Probably, it's in better shape than that Kool-Aid Man comic. I'd say this is probably a 9.4. I would definitely get this slabbed. There's a little bit of moisture damage here, but it's not too bad. Very, very hard to notice. And I think the CGC graders would be very merciful with this. See, you know, it's the pages are great condition. Sorry, I have no more DC comics. What a wonderful comic. Yes, indeed. Very valuable comic. I would definitely send this off to CGC. Definitely worth the $20. Here's another comic I would definitely send off to CGC. This one is also, let's see, let's first of all look at the corners. Yeah, a little bit of a color break there. And here, let's see, a little bit of moisture damage, but, you know, it doesn't look too bad. It looks like maybe it was left out on the in the backyard on the grass for a few nights. Not too bad. Wonderful ad on the back for Aurora model kits. Astounding. A little bit of moisture damage at the bottom, but I still think this comic would probably grade at 9. It would probably be an 8.8. 8.8, definitely. Yes. Obviously, I'm full of shit here. In my opinion, I wouldn't send any comics off to be graded because you can't read them. And look, this is not representative of what is in the collection of Grottu Orloff. I was mentioning this the other day. Used to be you'd go to Lone Star Comics here in Arlington, Texas, and there'd be sealed a brick of comic books about this much comic, and I think it was like $10, and it was there was just you could kind of tell from the spines what the comics were, but it was called Wounded Wonders, and you would get random comics. Most of them were Silver Age, but they were comics that really couldn't be sold in the stores. Some didn't have covers, or they had just the title cut off so the news dealer could send off and get credit for an unsold comic, or they look, that these are about the worst that you would get in there. I mean, they didn't have comics with mold on them, but those are some of the most nasty comics. But there was some great stuff in there. There were great reading let me see what I can find here. Oh, like this was in the Wounded Wonders. It looks good on the spinner rack, but if you look carefully, some kid cut with the scissors all the way up here, and so you're actually seeing the inside front page. From a distance, though, it just kind of looks like Thor is standing there. It's because he's in kind of proportion with these characters, but a huge chunk is cut out of it. But if I'm just going to put it up here on the spinner rack, it just kind of looks good from a distance, and nobody knows. And things like that. And then one time I got a Wounded Wonders pack, and it had about 6 or 7 EC covers, and it's cool. It's just the cover, no comic. But I thought that was cool, and I framed them. I showed you that the other day in the hall, but I don't know how many people actually. I think there's about 3 or 4 people that actually watch these videos. I don't know. Like this, I recently got for free. It was from Cosmic Comics. This is actual cover, but it was they had used it. See, they had taped it on the front of a long box, where they had the collector comics, and it was just there so you could see, there are comics in this box, and it actually looks like it kind of went through a fire. But the cover itself, if you just slapped it in a cheap dollar store frame from Dollar Tree, it'll look kind of cool. You're not supposed to cough in your hand, by the way. Let me try that again. No, you're supposed to do it this. You're supposed to do the Dracula. Oh, I won't. Do that better. Oh, children of the night, what music they make. Holy shit, there's a siren going off. Can you hear that? I don't know how good. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a Wednesday, and must be about 1, 2 o'clock. Every Wednesday, or is it every Wednesday? No, it's the first Wednesday of every month is what it is, I think. They test the sirens, which aren't that far from here. So I'm hearing what it would sound like if, we were at war. And apparently they're working. But that's an interesting thing to happen during my show. This is the Grottu Orloff show, by the way. This is going to be episode 1. I'm going to start numbering my shows so I can find them later. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so it's like, I'm a snob. I saw a cool interview. I used to, I showed you my old magazine, The Sophisticate, that I used to put out in the early 90s, and it was very politically incorrect and very kind of embarrassing, some of the shit I put in there that I would never do today. I think back then I was influenced by the National Lampoon, and then right about 1990, 91, they started to play the Howard Stern show here locally. And I loved it, and I was obsessed. I recorded it every day, and then when I got home from work, I'd listen to it and I'd save the best parts. I'd record them. So I'd record it on I'd get a VHS. I had a VHS recorder and I had a VHS tape and I put it in 6 hour speed so I could record 6 hours of audio. And when you record in 6 hour speed, the video is not good, but the sound is fine, stereo sound. So I'd record from the FM radio, 6 hours, usually shows are like 4 hours, and then I'd come home and listen to it, and if there was a really good interview or really good segment or funny part, I would put it on to audio cassette and save those, and I've got like boxes of audio cassettes of Howard Stern. And he was really funny, and he really thought the way I did, and now he's on a Sirius, the satellite channel. I had that for a while, and he wasn't as good on there, and eventually I just didn't have the money to pay for that, and I hear now he's gotten very liberal and is supporting Biden and had Hillary Clinton on, and I don't know. The thing about it is the thing that made the 50s horror comics so great is, and the Mad comics that Harvey, can you hear that now, that siren? Anyway, what made them so great is they were still in a format, comic books, that you couldn't do anything. You couldn't use foul language. You couldn't have nudity. I mean, the EC went pretty far, but it never had any of that. And so they were getting away with what they could in the format that they had. And Howard Stern would get away with what he could on FM radio. You know, he had the FCC watching over him and all that. But when he escaped from the FCC and got on Sirius and could do whatever he wanted, it wasn't as much fun because you can do whatever you want. So I think culturally, rock and roll, radio, comic books, it's like when there's an opposing force that kind of keeps you from going all out and doing whatever you want. It keeps it more interesting because you're pushed to be more creative and to see what you can get away with. You have to do it in more creative ways, but when you're allowed to do whatever you want, it sometimes gets a little gross. You know, when you like in the 50s, the song "A Whole Lot of Shakin' Going On," you know what it's about, but they don't come out and say it like some song like today, what's popular on the radio, a song like "Wet Ass Pussy" by Cardi B, and where they say whatever, they use the F word, and that's not interesting. It's interesting, what can you, good golly, Miss Molly sure likes to ball, and they got away with it because people say, oh, they're talking about ballroom dancing. They're talking about dancing, and then the older people say, oh, I see. So it's better to have something clamping you down, because like, for instance, Creepy and Eerie, Vampirella, they were equivalent, I would say, PG-13, sometimes really kind of pushing into R-rated territory, but it's still stuff that, 13, 14-year-olds could read, maybe 12, maybe a little younger if they were not, depending on how sophisticated they were, because they had violence and they had nudity in these black and white newsstand magazine comics. But then when Warren put out a comic called 1984, and then later it changed to 1994 because 1984 got a little bit too close, and then it's like you've got a comic named after the current year. They didn't want that, so they pushed it to 1994. Those comics got really gross because it was just like it was like reading stuff off the bathroom wall. They were, it's like there's a fine line between going full force into perversion. But big important news, tomorrow they're going to start filming Spider-Man 3. So maybe they'll introduce Gwen Stacy in it. Maybe they'll introduce Mary Jane Watson, or unless MJ, they have a character in there, the last two, that's called MJ. Maybe she's supposed to be Mary Jane Watson. I don't know. She's perfectly acceptable. I like the character in the movie, but it's not Mary Jane Watson. And if they introduce a Mary Jane Watson, having someone already named MJ, I guess that is Mary Jane Watson. But again, there does seem to be a push against people with red hair in Hollywood. You know, because you think think of any character that had red hair in a comic book, in the comic book adaptations, it seems like they don't have red hair. Lana Lang in Smallville, Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl, and Mary Jane Watson in the latest Spider-Man movies. I don't know. Maybe people just don't like Ireland. Something against Ireland. I'm half Irish, so I don't know. If you got red hair, I guess forget about Hollywood and get a job at Hooters, or start selling hot dogs at the stadium or something. I don't know. Well, you're here to see comic books. Later, I promised to do a sequel to my tribute video to Metarog, and I think what I'm going to do is show off my Legion of Superhero comics, because he's a big fan of the Legion of Superheroes, as I am. And you know, what I find fascinating on YouTube is just people showing off their comics, and not people saying, well, I gotta slab this one. It's like, because if you slab it, you're never gonna be able to open it again. And it's kind of nice to open a comic and look inside. In my humble opinion, or as the youngsters say, IMHO. Well, that doesn't sound good. I'm ho. No, IMHO means in my humble opinion. God, I'm fat. It's horrifying looking in the mirror and seeing exactly how fat you really are. Not you, I mean me. For instance, if I had this slabbed, which is my childhood copy of Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, I could never look inside it and remember the wonderful feelings of picking up this comic on the spinner rack at a 7-Eleven in Hampton, Virginia, and being amazed by what's within, and the confusion in my 7-year-old mind of a comic that looks like an Archie comic. The style of art is Archie, but and it's hosted by Sabrina, who I see every Saturday morning on television. So it has to be, you know, an innocent kiddie comic. But then there are pages like this, still in the Archie style, someone turning into this horrifying creature by reading a book on demonology. And this, when you see, look at this on the cover, look at that close up. It's this is a fantastic comic. And later in the run, and look at that picture of Sabrina. Isn't that a great picture of her face? Again, if this was slabbed, I'd never be able to open it and see it. I'd be able to see the front, and I'd be able to turn over on the back and see the back. And then I'd be able to read some cool words at the top written by some grader who's probably spent 20 seconds looking at the comic. They flip through it, make sure nothing's cut out of it. All the pages are there. They count pages, and they look at the page color, and they look at spine dings, and look, I've got spine dings because I've had this since I was 7, and that's almost 50 years. And there's even some color breaks, but pretty much this is pretty good condition for a comic purchased when I was 7, and it's moved around. It moved to San Antonio, then it moved to Tacoma, Washington, then it moved to here to scenic Arlington, Texas. Yeah, so and those of you that slab will never see the Venus flytrap ad. You'll never see the sea monkey ad. God damn, imagine if they really looked like that. Imagine if you could have a family of human-looking creatures, that would be amazing. And you wouldn't be able to see this Archie doll ad. Well, so, Chilling Adventures in Sorcery, #1 from September of 72, I would imagine 72. It wouldn't have been that further, that far dated ahead, because I was in, oh yeah, this is what it looks like later in the run, you know, so it's just now called Sorcery. And then they've got this real serious looking Gray Morrow art. Wasn't Gray Morrow a great artist? What else I got in here? This is my, I've been sorting bronze, this is a Bronze Age box. I've been separating Silver Age from Bronze Age, and it's a real pain in the ass, but it's ultimately going to be very rewarding. Okay, so then after that I've got Claw of the Unconquered, and then there's all these other C. There's a whole box of C's over here I need to go through and put into here, but of what, according to what I put in here, this must be my earliest Conan, #4, and I know all of you like to look at the corners, you know, it's like a ridiculous. Yeah, isn't that just a beautiful cover? Yeah, I don't know, just wow. Stuff I forget I even had. Lots of DC. See, this is what they're trying to do at Walmart now. They're trying to make the comics look like that. With DC, 100 pages, except it's 100 pages of modern shit. And they charge you, like, I think I heard they charge $20 a comic. Ridiculous. Look at that. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Who would pay that at Walmart? I go to Walmart and I ask, do you have comics here? And, oh, what? Oh, they're over in the party section, or they're over in the card section. They have no fucking idea. How do you work in a store and not even know what you've got? The Defenders, what a great comic that was. Yes, indeed. Well, tonight I'm excited about watching the debate between the Vice President, Race Bannon, and this hideous creature. Sometimes they call her Camel Toe Harris, or Heels Up Harris. I've heard all these degrading terms used for her. Yes, that debate, they apparently, Kamala, or Kamala, I don't remember how it's pronounced, but she wants a big plexiglass shield between her and Race Bannon. I'm sorry, Pence. Because she's afraid he'll give her the disease that cannot be named. But from what I understand, that it's little microparticles. It's smaller than, I mean, it's like subatomic almost, and this shit can go above and all around the plexiglass, and then it can get in the air conditioning system and then just infect everyone. It's kind of weird how the president and all the people around the president were suddenly infected after their first exposure to Democrats. It's like within days they all had it. And then if you go back a week or so before that, Nancy Pelosi saying, we have lots of arrows in our quiver. Lots of arrows in our quiver. It's like, well, geez, is that one of the arrows in their quiver? Who knows? Conspiracy theories. You know, in fiction and comic books, they always talk about the bad guy in these comics, right? Let me pull a comic out at random. I'll get it out of this long box. I got these fucking long boxes everywhere. It seems like everybody's switched over to short boxes because it looks like they just don't take up as much room. So I may need to do that. Okay, here we've got a comic where both the heroes of the comic are bad guys. All right, super villain team up. Okay, so Dr. Doom, actually Submariner is not really a villain. He's kind of in between. Depends on what day of the week. The villain always tells the police or the good guy what they're going to do before they do it, right? You think, well, what a silly trope. That's just ridiculous. Why does the bad guy always tell them? So James Bond is strapped down or whatever, and he's been captured, and the bad guy says, "So, Mr. Bond, I plan to infect the entire nation with a virus from Wuhan, China. And it will destroy the economy, and it will be right before the election. It will wreck the economy. And there's nothing you can do to stop me, Mr. Bond. And now, Mr. Bond, you will die." Okay, that kind of thing, right? They tell the whole, and of course, James Bond escapes and stops whatever that is. Or, in like Batman #1. I was just reading my original copy of Batman #1. It's mint condition, 9.8, from 1939. I don't have it. I've got the famous first edition replica of it. But anyway, I think that's where the Joker, he tells the police, "At exactly midnight, I plan to kill the governor," or whatever, and he will, and he dies with a big smile on his face, whatever. And they were warned, so they were all there watching the governor there, so that he couldn't, but they didn't know he'd already been infected with whatever. Okay, why did the Joker tell them that he was going to do that? Why does Nancy Pelosi say, "We have many things we can do before the election"? Why do bad people, and it's like, is it just in fiction? Is it just in comic books? Because Nancy Pelosi's not in a comic book. Well, what about the Zodiac Killer? He was actually the Zodiac Killer based in San Francisco in the 60s. You may have seen a movie made based on it or read it. I used to read all these true crime books. The Zodiac Killer was like a supervillain in a comic. He even had an emblem on his chest that looked like a gun sight and had a hood. And he went around and killed people in San Francisco and shot them. The movie Dirty Harry, the character Scorpio that Dirty Harry has to take out, played by Andy Robinson in the first Dirty Harry movie. He was based on the Zodiac Killer. That's why they call him Scorpio. He was never caught, by the way, and he'd send all these notes to the police, and it's like, on this day, I plan to do this. I plan to kill these people. Son of Sam did the same thing. So it is actually a thing in reality. And what it is whether you believe in Satan or not, there are people out there that do. And whether you believe that there is evil in the world, and there are people that worship evil, and they think that it's kind of part of their religion. They'll do fricked up things to you, but they will warn you first, and then if you're too stupid to pay attention to the warning, then they figure, well, they had it coming, because they only care about themselves. It's a very selfish religion. It's like, what's good for me is great, and I don't really care about other people unless they're people I love. It's like all that Crowleyan, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. But they do. It's in reality, a lot of these fucking bad guys, and women, I guess, but most criminals are guys, I guess. They do warn you in advance. So you got to pay attention to what people say. And these comic books that we read that seem so silly, these cliches where the villain always warns you first, and think, well, why are they doing it? Why tell the good guy what you're going to do? Just do it, and then you won't get caught. And they won't be able to stop you. No, they have to do that. It's part of what they have to warn you first. At least that's how I see it. Now I'm going to open this box again. So there might be some virus germs in there. So I'm going to put this on. You know. So I don't know. Let's see what else is in this box. Something that might be intriguing to you. Oh my gosh. Yes, indeed. Now this is a comic that I wouldn't bother grading. I wouldn't send this off to CGC because this comic, fuck, you know, you can get it for $1 in the dollar bin. This isn't worth anything. Okay. Pretty bad shape. Seriously, yeah, this is actually the first cameo appearance of Wolverine. Yeah. I like to say I bought this off the rack as a kid, but no, I was sitting home sick, and my mom went out and she would always buy me 3, 4, or 5 comics to cheer me up when I was sick, and she picked this up. How about that? I told you that before. She picked up that, and also at another time she got me my very first Spider-Man comic. I think it was 128, and Man-Thing #1, which I don't know how much value that has, but it has some value. Oh, let's see. What else we got? What else can I show you that's fantastic? I always love Christmas issues of Archie comics, man. They always have such great covers, and it's like, I bought this at Duncanville Books. That's why it's got this little sticker. That sticker just means this is, I think, a $5 comic. If you ever go to Duncanville Books is so great. I wish I could go there, man. I ought to go there and just ask for, you know, a part-time job grading comics. I'm thinking about doing that. Oh, man. Okay, I was showing you my little kids comics the other day. I have other ones. And more Little Pals. And Little Archie. Holy shit. Yeah, I was showing you stuff the other day, and now I realize I have more little kids. Little kids. I must have gotten these recently when I was in a frenzy at a store called Collected Comics. There's a store called Collected Comics. The last time, that was like the last store I went to before the pandemic started. And I would go through and find all these comics, and then I'd bring them up to the owner, and he priced them, and he priced really fairly. Normally I get real mad when I spend hours looking for comics, and I bring it up to the person that's going to tell me the price, and they're horrifically priced, you know, and then I don't want them. But what was annoying is the owner wasn't there. He was off at a convention or something, so his teenage employees said, well, we'll put him in a stack here, and he'll grade them when he can, and then we'll give you a call. And it's so you have to sit on pins and needles at work waiting for the call. And then I kept calling. I was like, have you graded him yet? Is he back yet? And finally I went, and I got some of them. Some of them were priced too high. It was, you know, there's absolutely no, as far as I know, collector demand for this, especially in shit condition like this. But it's something, it's all these 50s kid comics reprints, and I just like this shit. You know, I don't know what, Marvel was just going crazy trying to put out as many titles as they could in the early 70s simply because they could, and they had all these reprint titles that reprinted old romance comics and old Western comics and old horror comics, and it's just anything they could do to put out more issues, they would do it, because for years they were restricted in how many comics they could release. And here's Little Pals. Now, Little Pals was a funny animal comic. And then, of course, there's Little Archie. Now, this was the original of the Littles before all the rap people came along. There's all these Little Squeezy and little CJ and little PU or whatever. Oh, I always like this cover because anytime there's a ghoul on the cover, I'm there. Well, let's see. Let's put these back in the box. L, L, L. See, I have, I guess, yeah, I have IJ. Do you put in your boxes, do you file Incredible Hulk under I or H? Because I've got it under I. I don't know if that's correct protocol, but to me, what the fuck is that doing there? Why is this in the L box? Yeah, see, I've got That Wilkin Boy, an Archie comic no one's ever heard of. Several issues of it. Like right there, it's not a great cover. I love covers with bands, especially those Archie. That shouldn't be right there. Okay, so laugh, little kids, little pals. Yes, because P comes after K. And then it moves to Jughead's Jokes, and then to Commandy, Last Boy on Earth. Okay, so I need to refile That Wilkin Boy into the T file. Fantastic. I'm glad I caught that grievous error. That could have created a great catastrophe. Oh, I just found something that an old friend of mine from high school is a really great artist. In fact, he has his own commercial art firm, and he does all the advertising for Six Flags Over Texas. And somehow I wound up with some of his art from high school. We had an art class together and a commercial art class together, and I doubt he subscribed to my channel, but I need to give him a call. I haven't talked to him in a year. Tell him, hey, I got some of your old artwork. We had to, for commercial art in high school, we had to design an album cover, which is cool, a cool idea. And he designed in a, this was before Conan the Barbarian with Arnold Schwarzenegger came out. What did that come out, about 82? So he thought, well, what would the soundtrack album look like for this movie when it comes out? So this is his thought of how it would look. I told him to add the blood. He wasn't going to add the blood. My friend is a very religious guy, but I said, no, you got to put the blood in there. But this is high school amateur art. My friend George, actually his name is Jorge. It's a Spanish name, but he always pronounced it George, because people back in the 70s in the United States didn't know how to pronounce that. I first met him in 1977 in junior high school, because he was like the guy I could talk to about Star Wars, and it had just come out. It come out, end of May, early June, 1977, and then school starts, 7th grade starts, and all month I have no one to talk to about Star Wars, and it's like, who's seen Star Wars? Okay, this guy, and so we had a friendship from that, and we both were interested in art and everything. He was never into comics like I was. I told him a couple of times, get this book, Bring on the Bad Guys. It has the origins of a lot of the bad guys from Marvel Comics. I remember he bought that, but... Oh, also in our class was a guy named Aaron Sims in high school, and he went on to Hollywood and it designed a lot of. He designed the look of a lot of films. He was a great artist. His unfortunately, what he designs, if you look up Aaron Sims, spelled I think S-I-M-S, some of the work he does, like he designed, I guess he designed the look of the Incredible Hulk and the Abomination in that, the second Hulk movie. And he designed, this is bad. But I'm not knocking him. But he designed the Green Lantern look for that Green Lantern Ryan Reynolds movie. And I didn't like that it was. It should be a cloth costume. It shouldn't be glowing light, you know. But that's me, old-fashioned. I want things to be kept the way they are. But he has a great art style that's just kind of not the aesthetic that I like. Um, Someone that had an aesthetic that designed the look of movies, because what he would do is before a movie was made, people he did this, you know, like um, you know, before they make a movie, they hire someone to paint what it's going to look like so they can sell it to the studios or whatever. You know, like Jim Steranko did the art for Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is what it's going to look like. They hired him, and my mind is drawing a blank. The wonderful artist that did the Star Wars pre-production art. Why am I drawing a blank? But you know, that was great. And of course, the fact that he was no longer alive is probably why the prequels didn't look right. Or in the movies today, just is nothing but imitating those original three movies. Everything in The Mandalorian is right out of the old original Star Wars movies. They don't really, not a lot of new kind of creatures or new kinds of devices or spaceships or whatever. It's all the old stuff. It's just recycled, and it makes people happy. And The Mandalorian's not bad. It's not bad. I haven't seen all of it yet, but it's certainly much better than that other stuff that's been coming out. So anyway, some people in my art class went on to do great things, and I just went on to do little homemade comic book stuff, but I was never that great an artist. Sometimes I play around with acrylic paint. There's something I was wanting to say, and I've forgotten it. Oh, look at this. There was a nightclub in Los Angeles called the Haunted House, and the bands would play on a stage that looked like that. And you want to see that nightclub, you can get on YouTube and look up Sonny and Cher Haunted House. And Sonny and Cher actually go into that haunted house, and they have Frankenstein and Dracula, like mannequins as you go in, and then you go past all the, like a whole wax museum full of monsters, and then you get into the nightclub section, and that giant monster head blowing smoke and go-go girls and everything. You get to see that in that clip. Look that up. And look at this album cover here. This is Irish Macalla, Sheena. She didn't dress that skimpily on the Sheena TV show, but this is music for big dame hunters. I've been promising to show you through my record collection, and I still plan to do that, possibly very soon. Very, very soon. Man, there's shit everywhere. God damn. Oh, this is some bad's happened to this. This is a Hawkman figure. I know where that is. I've seen it somewhere. I've got to glue that on there. Just everything's getting tore up and disturbed around here. Well, I'd better go on down and see how my dog's doing, because she gets upset when I come upstairs. Yesterday I was filming. I was reading to you from the Monster Times, and the dog broke through the barrier at the bottom of the stairs and got upstairs. And when she gets upstairs, she's not going to hurt the cats, but the cats are terrorized by her. They are quite frightened when this dog emerges, because this is their territory. So when I next appear, I'm going to be showing you through my Legion of God, you can't breathe in this freaking thing. I'll be showing you through the Legion of Superheroes comics, and that'll be a special video intended for Metarog as part of his tribute. Today is October 7th, so it's the end of my contest, and the people that entered are the winners, and they are Metarog and Comic Crypt Keeper of Castle Hills. I've been enjoying his videos lately. He's putting up a video every day during the month of October, showing off monster-related comics and stuff. And better turn off this light. I think the video he did put up today was a little older. It seemed like his beard was shorter. Unless he cut it off like I did. But I'm going to grow it back so I don't look like Don Cornelius or Don Francisco or whatever his name is. I always used to like that Sábado Gigante show. I never spoke Spanish very well, but I liked the show because it was like the 1960s never ended on Spanish language television. It's like Ed Sullivan still was there, and the girls all kind of dressed like it was the 60s. Let's see if I can show you this. I don't know, I got this somewhere, and it's really cool. It's not amazing. I don't know if you can even see it. It's more like something out of a real carnival. I don't think that was something you could buy in a store. Someone just gave it to me. It was in somebody's garage. Well, you know, I just had to go to the dollar store to buy a real light bulb. And, you know, President Trump has made it where real light bulbs could be sold again. But, you know, when you use the LED bulbs, and I never liked those other curly Q bulbs, because if you break those, they have mercury in them and it becomes a toxic waste site. And I tend to break a lot of bulbs by accident, so I didn't like those. But then the LED bulbs seem cool, but they say that you can't put them in enclosed fixtures. And I didn't know why, because I didn't think they burned that hot. But, so I got this light here, and I put a LED bulb in it because that was all I had. But I got to put it in this fixture, and I didn't want to do that, so I have to go to the dollar store to get a real human light bulb. Let me turn that off so that it's not super hot, and I'll change it out. That's going to be a fascinating thing to do. I'm wearing this mask as a humor prop, but I can't fucking stand it. I can't wait for the election to be over and everyone says, well, it's not so bad after all. Oh, look at this. I'm going to read this to you. Look at what I found here. I'm going to read this to you. Yeah. Okay. So, go back in time 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, before I met my wife. There was a girl I was talking to online. You know, I thought this girl was really cool. She was much younger than me, you know, but I was like this fool talking to this girl on that was into monsters and comic books and all that shit, and records and all that shit. And I thought she was going to be the one, but it turned out not to be. And of course, I met my wonderful wife. But anyway, this girl was I think she wanted to be like a mortician, you know, because like goth girls, they either work as veterinary assistants or they want to be morticians. So she was going to mortician school. But anyway, she went back to school, and she was in some kind of some class they made you take. Oh, I need my reading glasses. For some kind of sexuality class or something. And she wanted to be real postmodern and write some paper comparing the reproduction process to Star Wars, you know. And I said, well, okay, I'll write that paper for you. And I wrote it, and I sent it to her in an email. And she actually turned this in to her professor, and she got like an A+. So this is why you shouldn't, maybe it's not worth sending your kids to school, off to college anymore. Just save the money. Don't let them get into debt. Just let them go out and get a job, because all they're going to do is going to teach them how to be people that think that Joe Biden is actually a viable presidential candidate. So anyway, I'll read this to you, and let's see what you think. Would you give this an A+? This was actually turned into a college professor, and it got an A+. Noted filmmaker and sex expert George Lucas has indoctrinated several generations into the mystery of sexual reproduction with his original Star Wars trilogy. At the beginning of the first film, released in 1977, Luke Skywalker learns of the mystery of the sexual force from an old man who explains what it is like. He is eager to begin learning more about this after seeing an attractive princess projected before him. Luke is led to the Death Star, a gigantic representation of womanhood. The Millennium Falcon is caught up by the Death Star's attraction and penetrates deep inside of it. Luke and his friends, resembling sperm, exit from the ship looking for Princess Leia, who obviously represents the ovum. It is a long and treacherous adventure for our heroes who finally locate the princess deep within the space station. Soon they are trapped within the contracting walls of the garbage compactor. Our attractive heroes hold it back with long poles. Finally, they withdraw from the Death Star and then come back with massive force, penetrating the Death Star again and again until it is consumed by a cataclysmic and orgasmic explosion. From the destruction of the Death Star, new hope for the rebellion has been conceived. The Force, in the Star Wars films, is described as an energy field created by all living things that surrounds and penetrates us and binds the galaxy together. After this conception, things don't go too well. The New Hope is tested by an attack from the Empire on the ice planet of Hoth. Most women will easily see this as a clear analogy of morning sickness. However, things begin to improve as Luke, who is the living embodiment of this new life, created in the fiery and violent death of the Death Star, begins to train under the tutelage of Yoda. Yoda, a small green Muppet, represents the inner strength of womanhood, full of knowledge that is passed down as instinct from mother to mother. There are still many more battles to be fought as the hope grows stronger and stronger over the next 38 weeks. Luke finally defeats the Emperor in a painful and bloody battle. As the Empire is defeated, a new life for the galaxy has been born. There are celebrations throughout the galaxy and many cigars are passed out. So, this kind of shit, and it actually is pretty funny. Looking at it, I can know. You get you an A+. I don't know. Maybe it's just a sense of humor, but how much is actually paid to take that class? How many years are you paying off your student loan debt to for some professor to be amused that you turned in a piece of shit like that wasn't even written by you? It was written by some supposed boyfriend 3-4 states over that you talked to on the internet. Anyway, I just found that digging through all this massive chaos the other day and thought it would amuse some of you fellow nerds, but at this point, oh my god. I just set these two puppets down that I was using the other day on Metarog's tribute video, and it looks really wrong. Can you see that? It looks really wrong. I didn't even mean to do that. Normally I used to always do that in stores, put the little dolls into horrible positions, obscene positions, but that one was done by accident. Okay, well, I'm going to go downstairs and act like a retired person and watch news and maybe some comic book shows. Or maybe I'll read War as I Knew It by General George S. Patton Jr. Or maybe I'll read Douglas MacArthur's book. Or Dennis the Menace versus Everybody. All fine books from the library of Professor Grottu Orloff. Or Don Francisco. Vaya con Dios. This is Don Francisco. And I will see you next Sabado. Adios.